Good morning. My name is Jim Entz. I am the coordinator of CHAP, the Cultural Historical Awareness Program. We are blessed, I think, to have clear sky for a little bit, hopefully about an hour. Anyway, we're very excited about this event, and I have a few things to say. Today, CHAP, along with EOP&S, Undocumented Student Services, and Undocumented Student Services, who are providing, by the way, the food for today, bring to you a celebration of Cesar Chavez. And the speakers that we have today will talk more about his legacy as well. But first, a short note about CHAP. The Porterville Cultural, Historical, and Awareness Program was organized in 2002 to enhance students' awareness of important aspects of our society to which they may previously have had little or no exposure. A theme is chosen by CHAP members each school year. This year, the theme is the Anthropocene. And faculty members across the campus are encouraged to integrate elements of that theme into their coursework. As well, they are encouraged to encourage the students to come to these events. And I can see many of you have, and I'm, excited about that. Events such as this with a guest speaker or speakers are offered throughout the year, free and open to the public. Our next event will be on Wednesday in the Porterville College Theater. It'll be at 7 p.m. It's, again, free and open to the public. That event will be a lecture by Dr. Rebecca Baird on women and the environmental movement. And I'm looking forward to that. So now, if you would, please silence your cell phones. And a couple more things, a proof of attendance for students. If you need those cards, we have cards that are available in the second booth over there. The student work, I'm not sure of her name. She will have the tickets. She has her hand up there for you. So you go over there after the event and the tickets will be available for you at that point. Now, I guess everyone's figured out the food. Make sure you sign your name here. It looks great. Wonderful. All right. And now for introducing our speakers, Maria Roman, come on up. Thank you.
I said, Roberto, where are you? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Roman, and I have the privilege of introducing you our first speaker. He's a great friend of mine, and he's one of the most VIPs here in Porterville. He's a lawyer for La Ola Raza. He is the executive director and also board of directors of the Cesar Chavez Foundation. So he is representing that foundation here. Oh, thank you. And he's also Porterville College alumni. So if you can follow me in the program, you have it there. I'm going to be reading from there. Roberto de la Rosa has been a Porterville resident since 1964 after attending there at Early Mart, California. He was born in Villa de la Paz, San Luis Potosí, Mexico, nearly 80 years ago. He and his widowed mother, Candelaria Martel, crossed the Rio Grande River and settled in the South Texas area where he attended PSJA High School. He received his adult education high school diploma from Delano High School at the age of 20. Roberto went on to receive his associate degrees from Porterville College in 1972, his Bachelor's of Science degree in 1974 from the University of California, Santa Cruz, with majors in sociology and anthropology. He continued his education and earned his jurisprudence doctorate from the University of California, Hastings College of Law in San Francisco in 1977. Roberto, thank you for being here. It's a privilege. Come on up.
Buenos días. It's a good morning to everybody. Like Maria introduced me, my name is Roberto de la Rosa. I'm very proud to be a Porterville College graduate. I remember the campus from way back in the 70s. It has changed. It's beautiful. It's a great place to come and get your AA degree. Now, here's what we want to do. Number one, I want to thank the faculty, the administration. I want to thank CHAP for putting together this special celebration. I want to thank each and every one of you on behalf of the Cesar Chavez family, the Chavez family and the Cesar Chavez Foundation. I want to thank you all for being here. Now, what we usually do is we notice how people are sitting, where your hands are, if you're cold, and we need to warm up, okay? So the first thing that we do when we have anything related to Cesar Chavez, anything related to the movement, anything related to the UFW, I hope you can follow me, okay? We gotta get organized, and we do what we call an organized aplauso, okay? Not for me, for you. Here we go. We go like this. 1, 2, 3. Pick it up. Que viva Cesar Chavez. All right. Are your hands warm? Is your heart feeling it? Can you feel it all over yourself? That's the spirit, okay? Now, I also wanted to add something about myself, because I want you to know who I am, okay? I am a migrant worker. I always was. I'm a Mexican. I'm a Chicano. I'm a Latino. I'm a Porterville graduate, Porterville College. And I am an activist. I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in violence. I believe in doing good for people. Now, when we start talking about Cesar Chavez, I want to start out with some of his words in a prayer, but I want you to listen to every single word. I want you to resonate with you. It goes something like this, okay? And again, I'm not a preacher. I'm not a priest. It says, show me the suffering of the most miserable, so I will know my people's plight. Again, show me the suffering of the most miserable, so that I will know my people's plight. When we think about it, and we take it one word at a time, what are we talking about? Okay? We're talking about the difference that we have lived in this country, in this society, where things are not equal. We're talking about things where some people have more rights than others, okay? Where there's more justice for some than for others. That's what we're talking about. That's what Cesar Chavez is all about. When I talk about Cesar Chavez, I want you to try to imagine Cesar Chavez walking on Main Street right in front of this campus on one of the first marches to Sacramento. I want you to imagine Cesar Chavez at a meeting at a place that used to be called Studio 45, Studio 45. Now it's called, it's a pizza place. Giovanni's Pizza Place. And a lot of folks with family have celebrated birthdays and everything there. I want you to imagine Cesar Chavez being there. I want you to imagine Cesar Chavez being in Poplar, not too far from here. I want you to imagine him in Woodville labor camp, talking to folks, okay? Getting them into the spirit of the movement. I want you to imagine Cesar Chavez, number one, as a labor leader. We all know that. That's how the UFW came to be. I want to take one step further, and I want you to imagine Cesar Chavez as what he really was. He was a civil rights leader. He was not limiting himself to just helping farm workers. The end result of everything that Cesar Chavez did is still with us today. That same spirit in the struggle for equal rights, for justice, is still here with us. Part of the reason why it's still here with us, we keep it alive. Es el espíritu, it's the spirit of the movement. It's Cesar Chavez's spirit. Now, where do I put Cesar Chavez? Who he was, who Cesar Chavez still is in our spirit, in our movement, in everything that we do. And we say, yeah, but he's not here leading anybody anymore. No, the spirit of the movement is still here with us. And Cesar Chavez has a very, very special place along with some of the other great leaders in the world. So, where do I put Cesar Chavez? I put him right next to Mahatma Gandhi, right next to Martin Luther King Jr., right next to Nelson Mandela. You think about it, it's like a Mexicano, a farm worker, coming out of Delano, coming out of Sal Si Puedes in San Jose, someone who was born in Arizona, a great man like all the other ones that we have just mentioned, obviously. And you can tell by the dimension of and the nature of the changes, the social changes that were accomplished that are still happening today. Everything that we see today is part of that legacy that Cesar Chavez left for us. Not just a labor leader, but more than that. Now, there's a question as to whether when we have social change, it becomes static and you don't need to worry about it anymore. We have equal justice. We have all the laws to protect us. And the truth is that social justice is still in need of repair. Now, I wanted to talk about something that I know quite well, and that is, I wanted to talk about changes in the legal system. And there's a major reason for that, okay? We live in a country, and I know that you heard this in political speeches. You say, we are a country of laws. We live by the rule of law, okay? Now, there are laws that protect the ones that can afford it, and there are laws that do not protect people that most need it. Okay. These are marginalized communities. These are people with no money to afford legal services. Now, how has everything changed since Cesar started with a movement? We've seen a change in the legal system in different ways, okay? Obviously, somebody has to make the law, and we're talking about legislators. We're talking about getting our people elected, people who actually represent the interest of our community, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their last name, regardless of their origin. Those are the folks that make the law. Those folks know that there is a movement in the community. Now, what good or what difference does it really make that there is a rule of law if there's no one to enforce that rule of law? What if, like back then, there were no legal services available for the poor? There were no legal representatives for the poor. What's the difference then? Come Cesar Chavez, things started to change. Just by coincidence, things started to change. Number one, there was an increase in the number of minority students graduating from colleges. Oh my God, what are we going to do with them? Okay. Some of them, and back then in those days, we were concerned that the majority of our graduates from high school were not making it to college. We were also concerned that you were barely making it through college through a 2-year institution, not continuing to your 4-year degree. We're concerned about that. Along comes the movement. Just by coincidence, along comes EOP, Equal Opportunities Program. Along comes LEOP, Legal Educational Opportunities Program, and the numbers started to grow. Okay? Part of the movement, part of our thinking, we were saying Chicanismo, we're saying Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlal, otherwise known as MECHA. Let's get our act together. Let's get them to graduate. Let's get them to come back to the community, come back to Porterville, come back to the rural areas, come back to the San Joaquin Valley, come back and help your people. Okay? How are you going to do it? You come back with a degree. You come back as a doctor. You come back as an attorney. And guess what? Things started to change. Things continue to change. Just by coincidence, and we know this to be a fact, Cesar Chavez was sacrificing. Okay? Cesar Chavez was still in the struggle. We can count the number of hunger strikes. We can count the number of marches from Delano to Sacramento. We can count those. And just by coincidence, our numbers of professionals started to grow. That's the movement. And they continue to grow. Now, other things just by coincidence started to happen. Okay. Along comes something called the Legal Services Corporation. It's probably funded in 1978. Legal Services Corporation does a very unique thing. They used to be called the Legal Aid Society. This is where the most poor used to go to get legal representation. Okay? Legal Service Corporation now operates so many different programs across the nation to provide legal services for the poor. How did that happen? Is it just coincidence? It happened? Or did Cesar Chavez and the spirit of the movement have something to do with it? And I can guarantee you that Washington, D.C. was listening to what was happening in Delano during the strike, during the boycotts, when every time that we marched up and down the state, somebody was watching. All the eyes of the nation were on us. And there was a response. And again, Legal Services Corporation. Prime example is called California Rural Legal Assistance, CRLA. Okay? CRLA got started in about 1974, independent of the Legal Service Corporation. Right, and they established themselves in McFarland. That was one of the main offices. And basically what it meant, it was legal services for the poor, underrepresented, farm workers, and it continued to grow. From a very small effort, it grew into a humongous organization with legal offices for the poor, all the way from the Mexican border throughout the state of California. That's the difference. So, to us, the difference is whether or not the movement has been relevant, whether or not Cesar Chavez's sacrifice was relevant to us, whether it still is. And I can tell you this. Obviously, I believe that we were liberated from the exploitation that we were suffering. Okay? Most people cannot relate to the concept of being exploited. But you talk to farm workers from back then, before the movement, before Cesar Chavez, before UFW, what was happening in the fields? Okay? How much were we getting paid? If we were getting paid, how often a grower would call the Border Patrol to make sure that we got rid of all those farm workers that are starting to ask for better wages, who are starting to ask for breaks during the day to rest, who were asking for toilets, something so basic. So it made a lot of difference. And again, we were liberated from that type of exploitation, but we were also liberated in our minds. So in our minds, we were told back then that there was a model that we have to follow in order to be successful in this country. And that was to emulate the rest of the population, okay? The rest of the professionals. And we had no professionals. Basically, we had no doctors. We had no attorneys. Now, if we had followed that path, we would probably still be out in the fields. But we broke the mold, and we were liberated from that. In terms of equality, they say, did Cesar Chavez have something to do with equal rights? Well, my God, I would say, why were we being treated so differently before this man came along? Why were we being treated so differently before the movement? And there was a reason for that. We were not organized. We were not organized as people. We were not organized in our minds. And believe it or not, the little exercise, when we clapped our hands, we organized ourselves for about 30 seconds. Again, we broke the mold, we got organized. Guess what? We're still organized. Every single day, we continue with our work. It's still part of the movement. And that's the majority of us. Now, if we were to call upon other folks and say, did the movement affect you? Did it help your parents? Did it make it possible for you to come to college? Is it going to make it possible for you to continue with your 4-year degree and become a professional? Yeah, we cannot take things for granted. Things happen. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. And one of those giants is Cesar Chavez. Okay? We're standing on those shoulders. He suffered for our standing on him. And he gave us his life. Now, I wanted to make sure that the message came across properly, that you get the idea as to why it is important for us to celebrate this day. Okay, so we celebrate Cesar. Cesar in the year 2027 would have been 100 years old. I think that makes him about 96 years old. Okay, but 96 years old. So Cesar had a lot of qualities, and one of those qualities was that he was very, very generous with himself. Okay? When he went on hunger strikes, he did it as an ultimate sacrifice for a lot of folks, for a lot of our people in the movement. So Cesar Chavez, again, as a legacy, is not something that we can say Cesar Chavez was. I say Cesar Chavez still is, because he's part of that spirit and part of that movement, okay? Now, I know that I have about 15 minutes, and I'm probably right about the 15-minute mark. If somebody would just give me an idea. 2 more minutes. Thank you. That's very nice. So, Part of the Cesar Chavez legacy that I want to share with you, because I want you to be able to feel it, okay? It's called the Si se puede. Not just a slogan, Si se puede attitude. Do you have it or not? Do you feel it or not? And that is, we converted into words of the movement, but it's no different than some of the other concepts that you have. Can you do it? Can you rise to the challenge? Okay. And again, that is part of our movement, is that Si se puede attitude. We always look at the double bottom line, not just one bottom line. Okay. The double bottom line is I can do it for myself and I can do it for others. Okay. We got to go beyond ourselves. We got to be able to say, have I done anything good for anybody else today? Will I be able to do something for folks in my community in the future? Am I going to get my 4-year degree, become a professional just to make money? Bottom line, I can make money and I can do good for others. That's extremely important to everybody, okay? So, let me just leave you with a couple of words again from Cesar Chavez. And again, this comes from the prayer. And it says, let the spirit flourish and grow so that we never get tired of the struggle. I'll repeat it for you. Let the spirit flourish and grow. Let it grow in yourself so that we never get tired of the struggle, okay? Share this with you. I'm 80 years old. I'm not tired of the struggle. God give me more years. I'll still be in the struggle, okay? Most of you are younger, quite a bit younger than I am. I hope you continue with the struggle. And I want to close it this way, okay? We do this in honor of Cesar Chavez. We repeat his name 3 times, okay? Now, I'm going to lead you. I hope you can follow me. Okay? So I say, Viva Cesar Chavez. And you say, Que viva, all right? Are you ready? Let's see who has the loudest voice. Que viva Cesar Chavez. All right. Que viva Cesar Chavez. Que viva Cesar Chavez. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let's hear it one more time for Mr. Roberto de la Raza. My name is Ricardo Marmolejo. I'm the Student Equity and Success Director here at Porterville College. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Oliver, or Dr. Oliver A. Rosales. Oliver A. Rosales is a professor of history and former faculty coordinator of the Social Justice Institute at Bakersfield College. He earned a BA in history at the University of California, Berkeley, an MA in history at California State University, Bakersfield, and a PhD in history at the University of California, Santa Barbara. He is also a former visiting faculty at the Bard College Master of Arts in Teaching program and visiting fellow at the Hutchins Center for African and African American Studies at Harvard University. He is a contributor to the Chicano movement. Perspectives from the 21st Century, Civil Rights and Beyond, African American Latino Activism in the 20th Century United States, and the Journal of the West. He served on the nominating board of the Organization of American Historians and is the board chair of California Humanities. So I introduce to you Dr. Oliver A. Rosales.
Let's see if I can get this microphone right. A little tall today. So I'm so happy to be here today with you to celebrate Cesar Chavez Day. I want to thank the Cultural Historical Awareness Program. I want to thank Frank Ramirez for inviting me to be here. And I want to say that, you know, the CHAP program that you're participating in really is a model for rural humanities. Humanities engagement opportunities are more frequent in urban centers. And this particular CHAP program at Porterville College, for me, when I was hired at Bakersfield College 10 years ago to teach at the Delano campus, became a model for how to do public programming. So I'm so happy to be here a decade later after I learned about this wonderful series. I'm also ecstatic to celebrate with you Cesar Chavez Day. I hope that this becomes an annual event for the Kern Community College District. The Kern Community College District should recognize this holiday as institutional holiday and be in line with the University of California and California State University. Cesar Chavez Day is especially significant, right? To Roberto's point about this history was born in the San Joaquin Valley, in Porterville, in Tulare, in Delano, in Bakersfield. So we should celebrate it institutionally. Cesar Chavez was a visionary. He had a vision for how farm workers should be treated in this country, and he dedicated his life to that end. His legacy is felt not only in the San Joaquin Valley, but across California, across the United States, and as Roberto said, even globally. The legacy of Cesar Chavez and the farm worker movement is also really only beginning. It's only beginning to be understood by historians. And it's in that latter topic that I want to offer some humble remarks to you today. I am a historian of California's civil rights movements. California is a multiracial space with a multiracial, multi-ethnic heritage. In terms of civil rights history in this country, the story is often a Black and a white one. It's often a Southern story. It's often the story of Martin Luther King Jr., right? The I Have a Dream speech, the March on Washington. It's the story of Rosa Parks challenging busing segregation in Montgomery, Alabama. It's also the story of Malcolm Little, or who you might know as Malcolm X, right? An African-American who championed Black nationalism first in Chicago, Oklahoma, and all across the United States. These are powerful stories. These are stories that you should know. These are stories that we should teach. But how does California fit within that narrative? Well, let me explain. The farm worker movement was the heart and soul of the Mexican-American civil rights movement, or what historians call the Chicano generation. Farm workers in the San Joaquin Valley, led by Cesar Chavez, led by Dolores Huerta, as well, importantly, by Filipino leaders like Larry Itliong and Philip Vera Cruz and others, inspired Mexican-Americans across the United States Southwest, from Los Angeles to San Diego, to San Francisco and New Mexico, to Colorado and Texas. And while Cesar's struggle was based in Delano, it inspired countless movements for farm worker justice, not only in the fields, but also beyond the fields. So why exactly is Cesar Chavez important? What did he do specifically? Well, you have to know something about labor law in the United States. Workers 100 years ago had very little rights, right? Child labor, no overtime, no benefits, no Social Security. Those labor rights emerged in the 1930s under the presidency of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right? But Southern Democrats, who were part of FDR's coalition, purposefully excluded farm workers from those benefits. Why? White supremacy. They didn't want Black sharecroppers and Black women who were domestic workers or farm workers to have Social Security, to have overtime, to have all the rights that make good jobs worthy jobs, right? So you have to understand that's what makes Cesar significant, is he advanced rights to farm workers that were not intended for them. Another thing that made farm worker organizing so difficult was the Bracero program. The Bracero program was a contract labor system between the United States and Mexico, founded in World War II. In World War II, in 1941, we went to almost full employment. A decade prior, in the height of the Great Depression, 1 out of every 4 Americans was unemployed. When the war happened, everybody had a job. And so there was a labor shortage in the fields, and Mexico stepped in and sent workers to work in the fields. They were seen as heroes, contributing to the arsenal of democracy. Now, when the war was over, growers and large-scale agriculture employers made sure that the Bracero program continued. And this made farm labor organizing difficult and challenging because growers had a never-ending supply of non-citizen labor. And so it made farm work organizing almost impossible. And so these two feats, being outside labor law and then growers having an endless supply of cheap labor, made farm labor organizing really, really difficult. And it's in that context that it makes Cesar's work so, so critical. Now, let's say something about Cesar Chavez. You know, he didn't fall from the sky, okay? He worked for an organization called the Community Service Organization for almost a decade prior to founding the United Farm Workers. The Community Service Organization, founded in Los Angeles in 1947, focused on bread and butter organizing issues in East Los Angeles, getting people registered to vote, getting people to become citizens, making sure that there's street lights, and electing Latino officials to represent the Latinos of East LA. CSO became really popular all across California. Wherever there were Mexican populations, CSO had a chapter, and Cesar was one of these organizers, going from community to community in Tulare, in Delano, in Bakersfield, in San Jose. Now, this was Cesar's most comfortable time. He had a great paying job. He had benefits. He talked about the security that that job was for him and his family. Now, in 1962, Cesar made a decision, a very hard decision. He wanted to organize farm workers. And so he approaches the Community Service Organization to ask them if they're willing to help him do this. And they tell him no. They tell him no. So Cesar is faced with a crisis of consciousness. What is he going to do? He makes the decision to leave this job, this very comfortable job, to go to Delano without benefits, to be in poverty, to be among farm workers, and to organize them. It's, in my mind, it's maybe one of the most significant events in the history of the Mexican-American civil rights movement. It took incredible courage for him to do that. Now, one of the things that Cesar was able to help do was to undo the Bracero program. The Bracero program finally ended in 1964, and it created a moment to organize farm workers that hadn't been possible in the previous 20 years. And thanks to the Filipinos of the Coachella Valley, who had the courage to go out on strike in Coachella and raise wages for farm workers there, as the grape harvest moved north to Delano and the Filipinos went out on strike, Cesar had an opportunity to join the Mexicans and the Filipinos in a common strike. That's where you get the name United Farm Workers. And I want all the students here, if you don't know this history, to appreciate this, that for a century, agriculture employers had been pitting racial groups against one another, right? If the blacks are doing something for $1.50, the Filipinos will do it for $1.40. And oh, the white Okies will do it for $1.30. Oh, the Mexicans will do it for $1.25. That was normative labor practice. So the fact that Filipinos and Mexicans came together in common solidarity, that was unique. And again, the United Farm Workers was the merger of two groups, two organizations. I could talk about this all day, but I'll leave you kind of with this historical thought. From 1965, when the Delano grape strike begins, it unleashes a wave of support across the United States. White college kids from Yale, Princeton, Berkeley, UCLA come to Delano because they want to see what's happening in the fields. When the Delano grape strike transforms into a boycott of California table grapes, the Black Panther Party, they're some of the biggest supporters of the UFW. When the UFW is boycotting stores that sell non-union grapes, the Black Panthers would go in front of those stores to query consumers as to why they're not supporting the farm workers, right? And this is all in a non-violent manner. That underscores the point that Roberto was talking about in putting Cesar in the camp with Nelson Mandela and Martin King. But non-violence is not weakness. I can't underscore this enough. If you go to the National Chavez Center, Cesar Chavez had an 8th grade education. But if you go to his office, it is surrounded by books. He was an organic intellectual who studied history, and it was a fierce strategic thinker when it comes to nonviolent protest. Whether it was a strike, whether it was a boycott, or whether it was a fast, he successfully raised the consciousness of not only his volunteers, but American consumers, So when you go to the store and you buy your food product, you think about the labor that went in to that product. That is a straight UFW legacy. And again, I could talk about this all day, but I do this with my students. But what I'll say is this. I wanted to mention religion as well. So one of the key groups that helped sustain the strike and the boycott between 65 and 70 was the church. If you look at historical footage of UFW activism, Catholic priests are on the front lines making this happen. But it was also not just a Catholic movement. Protestants, Jews, Muslims, it was what we call an ecumenical social justice movement. And as I said at the beginning, the UFW social movement that Roberto was talking about as a civil rights movement, it's only beginning to be understood. So if this seems new to you, these are the conversations that I have at Harvard. These are the conversations I have at Yale or at Berkeley. Those folks know about it, but oftentimes the knowledge doesn't trickle down to where the history actually happened. Now, I want to kind of move to the end part of my talk before I make a pitch to you. So this history that I've been describing to you, I've been able to manifest in a course at Bakersfield College that anybody can register for. It's a non-credit course. I call it Landmarks in California History, because there are landmarks on the Federal Registry associated with farm labor history that are in our community, in the Kern Community College District community. And I want to tell you about them briefly. One is Allensworth, California, here in Tulare County. Allensworth is the historic home of Black independence. It is one of the only Black towns founded by Black people for Black people in the age of segregation. Now, you might ask, well, what does that have to do with Cesar Chavez? The town was founded in 1908. Well, I'll tell you. Black farm workers were part of the National Farm Workers Association. They were on the UFW advisory board, and the conditions that Black migrant farm workers faced were the same as white Okies and Mexicans. And so knowing the history of Black rural migration is foundational, right? And so through this course that you can register, you'll learn about Allensworth. Number two, the Sunset Labor Camp in Lamont, California. This is the historic setting of John Steinbeck's novel, The Grapes of Wrath, published in 1939. That federal labor camp, very, very significant on all kinds of levels. And I'll tell you one to connect it to Cesar Chavez. It was run at a time by a guy named Fred Ross, who was the mentor to Cesar Chavez, right? A third location, Delano, California, Filipino Hall, the Agbayani Village, 40 acres, Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, the Lakeside School, which has a Filipino mural. I mean, there's so many sites in Delano that are of great significance that if you've never been to, you need to put that on your mental calendar to visit. And then finally, the National Chavez Center in Keene, California, or La Paz. In 2012, President Obama made La Paz a national monument. Those four sites are in the service region of the Kern Community College District. And if you're interested in learning more about that history, I would strongly encourage you to consider registering for this half-unit non-credit course. And this is really a participatory course. You can not only learn about those sites, but visit them, touch them, engage with them, and help fill the gap when it comes to understanding the history of farm labor in the San Joaquin Valley. I have deliberately built into these courses opportunities for what I call grassroots archives generation, because everyone has a connection. Everyone has a story. I was here because I wanted to hear Roberto speak. I knew his son, but I couldn't wait to meet him and learn about the work that he talked about. When he was talking about the California Rural Legal Assistance, I first learned about that because there was a PhD candidate at Northwestern University writing a dissertation on it, right? So I know that these things are historically, graphically significant. But again, this is our legacy. This is our community. We have to also control how these stories are taught and how our kids learn about them for the future generations. So it's in that capacity I want to invite to the stage briefly my colleague, Andrew Bond. Andrew is going to make a special announcement about an event that he is coordinating that we would love all of you to come to. And I'll say this about my colleague Andrew Bott. I don't know where he is. Is he to the side here? He's a professor of English at Bakersfield College, and he is a comrade in all things social justice and speaking truth to power. So again, I'm so excited to have him invite you to these events that he's coordinating. Andrew?
See if I get this up a little bit more. There, that's a little better. Hi, so as Oliver mentioned, I'm a professor of English at BC, and I've been working with him in the Social Justice Institute pretty much since I first started at the college. I was originally hired at BC to teach split assignments and be the English department's liaison to the rural initiatives. So I've taught in Delano, Wasco, Arvin multiple times. Currently teaching a class in Arvin right now, actually. One thing I'd like to mention really briefly, just kind of like dovetailing off of Oliver's speech and also Roberto's, is that a lot of the issues, a lot of the loopholes that the U.S. Labor Code used to exclude and omit farm workers still exist today. Children as young as 12 can still work in the fields legally. Whereas in any other industry, you have to be at least 16 years old and in some cases 18 years old or older in order to work. And there are organizations like the Children of the Fields campaign that do work around that and trying to get those labor codes revised. Also, overtime pay for farm workers is not a national right. It's only a handful of states that have very recently passed laws that provide overtime pay for farm laborers. So those are things that you should look into. The activism and the struggle is not over. It didn't end as soon as DeGiorgio and the farm workers union signed the labor contracts. It's still an ongoing issue because, to be frank, anytime someone can make $1 off of exploiting someone, they will. So definitely look into that. So as far as the events that we have planned, in May, we're going to host our 5th annual Jess Nieto Memorial Conference. Jess Nieto was a professor at Bakersfield College and a longtime activist and nonprofit organizer and friend to the UFW, who inspired a lot of students and faculty colleagues and community members to be involved in civic engagement and also get involved with the Farm Workers Union when he was helping them out. So every year we have this conference in which we celebrate not only his life and legacy, but also the things that he cared about, such as civic engagement and organization, and art and education. And this year we're doing our conference between May 4th and May 6th. We're going to have events on May 4th at the Bakersfield College campus in the Levin Center for the Humanities, featuring student panelists from our MECHA organization and our Lupe organization, which is basically a student organization for undocumented students and their allies. We're going to have a live mariachi group from the Bakersfield City School District's migrant education program. So if you want to see a bunch of really cute, 8 to 12-year-olds showing up in full-on mariachi gear, playing, you'll enjoy it. We're gonna have free food that day too, going along with that. And probably most excitingly, we're actually going to have productions of a few of Luis Valdez's actos performed there. One of the things that we're really trying to do is revive the art of teatro campesino in the Valley again, in the southern San Joaquin Valley. And Kimberly Chin, who's a professor of the theater department, is currently directing about 12 of her students in a couple of plays written by Valdez, who was notably a member of the farm worker movement and was basically in charge of sort of the arts and entertainment side of things, creating performance art in order to further the movement at that time. So we're going to have those performances on that Thursday night, May 4th. On May 5th in Delano at RFK High School, which is right next to the BC Delano campus, we're going to have an event featuring Dr. Jasmeet Bains, who is the Assembly District Representative for District 35. She is the first woman and also the first South Asian person to represent that district, to be elected to the Assembly. I believe she's the first South Asian to be elected to the California Assembly. She was born in Delano. She's a family practice doctor, and she was just recently elected in the last round. And she's going to be coming to Delano to speak as part of our conference, and also as part of our celebration of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Right after her speech, we're going to be screening the film Walking into the Unknown, which is a documentary about Punjabi women in the Central Valley. And we'll have, via Skype, the film's creator and director, Dr. Nicole Ranganath, who is a professor at UC Davis. She'll be on to field questions and to talk about the making of the film, but also the presence of South Asian peoples and, more importantly, women in the Valley. Because, as Dr. Rosales mentioned, our history is a multicultural one in the Valley. It's not just one that, as stereotypically represented, is of like Mexican descent. Even in our, varied like Central and South American heritages here, right? Like you have people from like Guatemala, Honduras, like all these other countries who are oftentimes stereotyped as just like this like monolithic, Mexican when it comes to any narratives about farm workers. So to kind of talk more about that multiculturalism of the history locally, we're working in the South Asian experience through those two events. And then on Saturday, we're going to be focusing very heavily on the farm worker movement, but also the Filipino experience as well. At the BC Delano campus on Saturday, May 6th, we're going to have a few classrooms set aside for documentaries that will be screened on loop. We'll have Walking into the Unknown. We'll also have Marissa Arroyo's documentary, the Delano Manongs, which is about basically this entire generation of Filipino farm laborers who moved to the U.S. at a time when anti-miscegenation laws did not allow them to marry outside of their race. And therefore, they basically lived their entire lives bachelors and went into retirement without families that could help support them. The UFW ultimately built Agbiani Village for them by purely volunteer labor. Dr. Rosales was mentioning earlier about Agbiani Village. So we'll have that documentary going. And there's also a documentary that Bakersfield College produced in partnership with the Cesar Chavez Foundation and what's the medical foundation, Oliver, the family?
I'm totally blanking. The Patels.
Oh, the Patel Foundation too. So the Patel Foundation, in partnership with the CCF and with BC, we got together and we created a documentary focused on nonviolence in the farm worker movement, and more specifically Gandhi's influence on Cesar Chavez and his work. And we have that documentary. So basically, like, we'll have 3 classrooms set up where those movies will just be on loop, and you can kind of go between those rooms and just watch. The Filipino American National Historic Society is going to be providing us with a few of their members, namely Alex Edlor is going to be among them, giving tours of Delano and those major historical sites. So every site that Oliver mentioned just a few minutes ago in Delano will be visited, via bus with a tour guide who, is organized or involved with the Filipino American National Historic Society. And then we'll also have tabling from various organizations. The Central Valley Empowerment Allegiance is going to be there. We're going to have the Cesar Chavez Foundation, a number of groups there to just offer their information. Maybe we'll have Ola Raza if they're cool with coming. We'll get you the invite. And so it's going to be a pretty full day going through. There'll be lunch. We'll have some pastries and coffee in the morning, and then we'll have lunch. And after lunch, we're going to have the performances of those teatro actos again. But on top of that, everything working out, we'll have one original piece written by the students from the theater program who are working on that. So we'll have an original teatro piece that will be premiered, debuted, however you want to put it, at the end of the day on that Saturday, May 6th event. All of these things are free and open to the public, and everything will be available as far as the information goes and signups. All of that will be available at the Bakersfield College Social Justice Institute webpage. I'd encourage you to visit that for additional information. I don't have it posted yet, but as soon as we have everything finalized, it will be there. And also, just in terms of previous programming for what we've hosted, a lot of our events took place in Zoom during the pandemic. And fortunately, by doing so, by having that happen, we were able to record almost all of them. And if you go to the Bakersfield College Social Justice Institute YouTube channel, you can go back and you can watch our programming for previous Just Nieto Memorial Conferences. Some of that programming includes, for instance, we had a panel that featured Paul Chavez, who is Cesar's son and the current president of the Cesar Chavez Foundation, along with Artie Rodriguez and Teresa Romero, who are both respectively. Artie was previous president of the UFW, and Teresa is the current president of the UFW. A lot of good programming there, and it's all free to watch. Of course, it's all on YouTube. We just wanted to have that stuff available to the public so anyone could go and watch it at any time. So if you are interested and you forget all this information, feel free to just email me if you like. My name is Andrew Bond, B-O-N-D. So it's andrew.bond@bakersfieldcollege.edu. Or you can just look up Bakersfield College Social Justice Institute and you'll be able to find all the info there. Oh, and we will, and I will be emailing the Porterville College listservs, the faculty listservs, and staff listservs as well. So that way, faculty and staff, if you could, pass word along of the events as they come up. But clear your calendars for May 4th through 6th. A lot of free events, some free food, and some great educational opportunities there.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. I invite Frank or someone back to close it out.
Hello again. I wanted to make a quick thank you to Roberto de la Rosa Jr. for bringing the beautiful artwork that is here behind us and next to us. And also, once again, to thank EOP and S and Undocumented Student Services and Frank Ramirez, Director of Student Services, and Maria Roman for their work on this as well. Thank you, guys. And then finally, just a reminder, on Wednesday night, we have another event. It's in the Porterville College Theater. It's at 7 p.m. and it is Women and the Environmental Movement, and that's Dr. Rebecca Baird who will speak. And so we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much.